I may as well just hit record. And it was the SD card before it was like full.
Check.
I should have looked before we started recording. I would have seen that there was, whatever 20 minutes left or whatever the hell, but I didn't look. Check if your mic's on too.
Yep. 1 2 1 2.
Okay,
Yep,
nice.
yep.
Sorry, I can't hear anything, so I have no idea.
Test 1 2.
Should have. I need to get another set of headphones. That's all good though.
Yeah, I'm on. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Do you want these ones?
What? Oh, sure. If you want to go, oh yeah, you go raw dog. I'm gonna put a condom on. Oh yeah, that's the opposite of putting a condom on. It feels so much better.
Now.
Holy shit!
It feels better. That just hit me. That's funny.
All right, so we'll get started. Today we got, Pardon My Growth, we got Zach and I, and we got our guest today is Tom Garland, professional comedian from Cedar Rapids area. He's performed in Vegas. You were a residency, right? Is that what it's called?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. No, I appreciate it. And I've been on other people's residencies. If there was a Tom Garland residency, they would be like, "What the hell is this?" Like, they'd be like, that was just.
I mean, you resided
they'd just
there.
be like, "You just won't leave the casino. That's the residency."
Yeah.
They just won't get me out of here. But no, this is sweet. How long have you guys have been doing quite a few of these, huh?
Yeah, I think we've 5 or 6 of them, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
I didn't know anybody lived in Coralville, Matt. I thought this was literally I thought it was just stores here. When I drove by houses and condos and shit, I was like, those are fake. That's not real. It's just
it's fake town.
It's like a facade.
It is like a facade.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nobody there's no high school here, right?
Not in
think
Coralville.
so.
There's a junior high. That's a fake junior high, of course. But,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Here
it's
has
like,
a water
where'd you
coral?
go to junior high? Like Hot Topic. Then I graduated and I went to Spencer's Gifts, and my teacher was Texas Roadhouse, and that's the stupidest shit ever. But this is like a Vegas though. It's like a totally fake town and shit. I like it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, this is the first year living in Coralville. It's not the water sucks. That's about it.
The water sucks here?
Yeah, I got a filter though, or the landlord here has a filter, but
Okay.
typically the water in Coralville just sucks. There's no it's too hard or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
something like that. I forget.
That's stupid that they named it after something aquatic then
right?
too. That
Yeah.
was like Coralville
coral,
with
yeah.
fish everywhere. Really? No, there's just demon water from the power grids. And
it's just shitty water. That's just land trap.
I like how you said it's too hard. I guess that's what people told me. I don't really understand it. I guess it's shitty. I'm not really sure what shitty water is, but
if you try, you know.
yeah.
You would know.
That's funny. That's great.
Tom, you just put out a new documentary, right?
Yeah,
Called The
I
Arcade
did.
Gamer?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that no one has seen. So I'm glad I prompted you. For anybody listening, I prompted Matt. I was like, we should plug my documentary, and he was like, yeah, okay. I haven't watched that, and I was like, watch it before we do this. And I put a gun to his head, and I was like, if you don't watch my documentary, you have to drink Coralville water. And he was like, okay with that. So
that was the best fucking documentary I've ever seen. So
well,
I did watch it. It's on Tubi, which is sweet.
Yeah, you did watch it though.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you. I appreciate it. I'm being such a dick. No, that's so cool, dude. And we had a lot of fun making it. It's called Arcade Gamer: The True Story, and then it is just exactly what it sounds like. It's a documentary about a guy that's an arcade player that I went to high school with at a Hot Topic in Cedar Rapids, and we went to high school together, and he hit the world record in Galaga, like the vintage arcade game, and I knew him through a friend of mine. He was older than me in high school, and we were on this bachelor party together. He gets telling me how good he is at this arcade game, and I wasn't doing a whole lot of stand-up at the time. We had talked about earlier before we started. I had stopped during the pandemic, and so this is maybe 2021, 22 when we start filming this, and I was like, oh, well then, we should film that, dude. And I have some camera experience from back in college, and when I was out in Las Vegas, I was a camera guy for the sports teams out there, and so I was like, we could shoot this, and then if it turns into nothing, then we'll just not do anything with it. But I think it turned into kind of a fun project. It's technically a feature because it's over 40 minutes, but we tried to keep it short and sweet. And
No, it was a good watch. I liked it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it kind of ties in a bunch of different things, and saw there was a little Norwalk on there, right?
Yeah,
Norwalk,
the one guy lives out in Norwalk out in the middle of BFE nowhere, and he's a great guy. His name is Matt McGill, and Matt was a great find for us because originally my deal with Jordan, the guy that the documentary is really about, was I was like, okay, Jordan, I'll bring all of the we'll have like a business partnership here. I'll bring all of the camera work and video editing and I'll front all that. You need to find me other arcade people to be in this. And he was like, I know this guy in Norwalk, Matt. He's got his garage just full of arcade games. He's my best friend in the arcade world. And I didn't really know what to expect. And we went there and it was like a hoarder's garage of like, it's like an arcade boneyard. I mean, he burns ones that like he doesn't want anymore in his yard and stuff like that. It was like, it was so cool though, because it was just like, he has so much he works on the arcade boards, like the actual tech that's in them and stuff
that's
like
always my favorite part about the gaming documentaries and stuff is the people that know how to like, because what do you say, fix the Donkey Kong guy, and then like, because you're like, how the hell do you even know how to do that? And then you realize it's all just ones and zeros and like 8-bit thing and all that. But
he has the tech. He's real technical about that and knows all that sort of knowledge and stuff. So he was like an invaluable resource in terms of like, anytime I had a question about something too, where I'm like, well, how does that work? We could go to Matt and Matt would explain like what the history of it was and all that sort of stuff. So it made research a little bit easier.
Nice. Yeah, it was a fun documentary. You have plans for more than two?
Well, I don't know yet. And it's
one about Scubin? Cubin and the one man show Zach.
That's referencing my speed cubing hobby.
Honestly, stuff like that is cool though, because it's niche. And even like you do the yo-yo and stuff like that I've seen. And I don't know, is that the right term for it? I'm not. Yo-yo, because you have different ones too.
If you want to be weird and cool about it, like people will say that they're like throwers. Like people that try to be like cool.
It's dope, dude. Yeah. I mean, I would assume that the more tricks you get into that can become death-defying, even of a sense. Like, here's one that's on fire. Here's one that's whatever. Right. I mean, for real though, I think that's dope. And so that's what I liked about it with the arcade thing, was that it's like a super niche world. But I play video games like everybody, but I don't play like that kind of video. You know, I'll play like some Halo or Call of Duty or something sometimes. Yeah. So I had to like learn a ton. Like you said, there's like a whole world of that.
Right.
And just like stand-up, there's a whole world of stand-up. And everybody, if you ask anybody, like if you ask grandma, like, do you like comedy? Everyone's gonna be like, of course I like to laugh. And it's like, well, do you who's your favorite stand-up comedian? And they'll be like, what?
Tom Garland.
You know? No, I don't think that's a thing. No. Yeah.
Well, if you ask grandma, you got to be the favorite comedian, right?
Yeah, maybe my grandma. Yeah, my one grandma that's still alive is I think she's 103 and stuff. So if she remembers who I am, that's a plus, right? If she says my name, I'll be like, "Yep, we're in, grandma. We're back." Yep, that's great.
No, it is fun to think of it. Like I don't know. I kind of tell Zach how I started thinking about comedy is like the Poke Gyms and old Pokemon games, where you just go in, but then you realize there's just a Poke Gym for comedy. There's a Poke Gym for throwing or like cubing and all that, and there's Poke Gyms for all this, and you like.
There's a Poke Gym for grandma. It's called the nursing home.
Yeah, exactly. Right, the Poke Mart. Yeah.
I don't want to derail this, but my grandma used to. Both of them. My one just passed away not too long ago, and I would do work the road, and then they lived in this. They live in Sterling, Illinois, was where they were from. But then there was a small town outside of Sterling called Deer Grove, Illinois, and Deer Grove is a population of 49 people, but they have a big bar, and all these small towns would drive into the big bar, and they would do stand up there. And so they'd had me headline there and like give me a hotel room in the real town down the road and whatever. So my grandmas had come to the show a couple times. Nice. And like everybody in the town knew my grandma and stuff. And so they literally put in the paper, like, he's best known for, being on tour with the Jackass guys. He's also Mary's grandson. And whatever. Like, it was in the newspaper and stuff. That's so funny. Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat.
Nice.
Yeah, but I like what you're saying about like the Poke Gym. Yeah, there's a niche world of everything. So
you kind of meet one person, they'll introduce you to everybody else and stuff. And
it's super weird from my perspective, like having dove into like a bunch of those niche worlds. Like I have so many hobbies, and they're all like I dive way in when I go into something, and it's always interesting when you talk to people that don't know about it, and they're like, oh, they have like competitions. Like, yeah, of course. This is like every niche has like a whole world and community around this one thing. Yeah, of course.
I think that's healthy, actually. I think that's good. What ended up happening when the pandemic hit and everything stopped, and were you guys both here in Iowa?
Yeah.
So it was kind of open, right? I wasn't here at all.
Yeah. But I think some places it was like wide open, and then other places there'd be weird rules that seemed not enforced or consistent,
and that's
or whatever.
Like what it was here. Yeah. In Vegas, it was like it was a lockdown. Like you couldn't do anything. At one point, I was like, me and my wife lived in a 600 square foot apartment, and she was my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I'm losing it. I've got to go. And so I drove to like a park, but parks were closed. So I'm just sitting in my car. Like I was just trying to get out of the house for a minute. So, I said, I'm freak out. And a cop rolled up and was like, you can't be here. I was like, you're kidding me. And I was like, what's the difference if I park here or park at Walmart?
Right.
Like I'm just enjoying the seat. He goes, then go to Walmart.
Yeah.
So I did. So I went and parked at a Walmart like a crazy person. And I was like, I'm just going to sit in my car at Walmart and stuff. So I was losing it. But anyways, where I was going with that was having those hobbies and stuff is healthy because then when something does happen like that or like something derails where you're like, I don't really like stand up. You have all these other facets to go into.
Just go into
I
it,
was like stand up stopped and that's all I ever did really other than there I bartended too. And so then when everything shut down, I was like, well, I'm just going to lay on the floor and stare at the wall because I am completely lost my mind. Like,
nothing's real anymore.
It was just like it just screwed me. Like I was so crazy of it. So that was the other thing with the film stuff where I was like trying to I need to branch out more in creative like realms where I'd like for so long all I did was stand up and all stand up leads to is more stand up.
Yeah.
People always say they're like I want to do stand up so I can get into being an actor. That's such a small percentage of like people that actually occurs for. Most comics it just leads to more comedy. So I'm like I want to do some different projects.
Yeah. So you did the WWE movie too, right?
Well, I didn't do that movie. So that's my friend Joe from college, Joe Clark, who's a really talented filmmaker. So at the time I'm doing, but thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
I mean, you're acting or not acting.
I'm like in it. Yeah. It's called Headstrong. That's with Rob Van Dam. You can get that. You can rent or buy it, I think on Amazon for like as low as like $5. It's a good movie. Joe did a great job with it. I learned a ton just from being around him. And so the story with that was eventually I started to tour with different celebrities, and Rob Van Dam was one of them. I had met WWE Hall of Famer Van Dam in Vegas. I had gone out there a bunch. This is before I lived there. I'd gone out there a bunch and done shows. And Rob was like, we had done a show together. I think I opened for him, and then he had a good act. A lot of times the celebrities they don't have an act. Okay. They just go up and they're like, "You've seen him on YouTube," and the guy just sucks, and you're like, "Why is this?" And I think comics hate that. Like I hate it. It's like kind of a turnoff because you're like, "Wow, this guy gets to headline and whatever." But Rob had both, where he's like, he's known, he draws, he sells, and he's funny. And has worked on his stand-up for years because he used to live in LA and would like go to the store and shit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like, oh, that's really cool, dude. And so by the time I meet him, he's already got his hour. And so I was like, this dude, we should do some shows in the Midwest and stuff like that. And he's like, you cannot afford me. I get paid and I was like, well, you're at this thing. And he's like, I'm doing this for fun because I live around here. And I was like, okay, well. And then one day, just out of the blue, he calls me and he's like, you know what? Money's not everything. I want to get out of the house. I want to do some shows. So we had done like 2 or 3 runs. And then finally we start talking about comedy specials and stuff. And I was like, actually, I think a documentary would be cooler. I went to college with this guy that makes indie films. We could, for X amount of money, we could bring him. We'll cut it out of the tour money. And then we'll pay him to come along and film us. And whatever we get is like what we get. So this is too long of a story. But Joe comes along. We go on this, like, I don't know what it was, like 10, 12 show tour, maybe even as low as 7 shows or something. And we're out on tour. And Rob's not feeling well. He's had a concussion he's still wrestling, and so he had a concussion from wrestling, and he's trying to do stand-up and stuff. And then Joe and Rob decided they should take it on like a whole nother realm where it dives into this concussion thing. And so we start talking about his concussions and everything like that, which I think that turned it into like a real movie rather than just like this promo stand-up thing that was like, so that was really neat. And
it's
so
like kind of like CTE too, or also
well,
what you're doing.
He was that's the worry, is that you would have CTE. He does not, or whatever. And they kind of get into that in the documentary, but it was just very interesting. Like he goes to get his brain checked out and like goes to see doctors and talks with different specialists. And again, there's a niche world of concussions. There's a whole gym of concussions and of wrestling too and stuff. But it's real neat because it's like, I think that one in the difference between my arcade documentary is lighthearted and stuff. That one gets serious at points, then goes back to funny, then back to serious, and then touches in on all those different worlds. So that one is really cool. And then obviously Rob is a celebrity, so then I think more people have seen that clearly, over time, which was neat. But I'm like young in it. I'm like maybe like 25 when we filmed it.
Oh wow!
So then it didn't come out for like 4 or so years because of different reasons and stuff. But then when it did come out, I was like, wow, I look nothing like that, and don't tell those jokes anymore and stuff. So that's fun.
That's funny. How'd you get out to Vegas? Because you started here in Iowa City, right, or the Iowa area? And then
I started in well, I guess like Iowa City, Cedar Rapids. I did Penguins and all that, and then started some open mics here in Iowa City. My big first thing was eventually I met Steve-O, and he had come to what I think is still there. It's called the First Avenue Club.
Oh yeah, I was working at Two Dogs across the street when they were there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, right across. Yeah, nice. Okay.
So Ned that runs the First Avenue Club is a great guy, and he was letting me like host or feature the show. It was kind of like a 2-man show thing, and so he had Steve-O come. Steve-O sells out the show. I meet him. I'm like a super idiot fanboy, and he's like, "Okay, bye." And then I'm like, nothing happens, right? But then he comes back to town. Like Ned had booked him again because he'd sold out and done so well and stuff for him, money wise, and he has a good show and stuff. So he had come back, and I got to open for him again. And the second time, Steve-O was like, "Hey, I watched your act. You're funny and you're cool, and we should like exchange contact information and stuff like that." So we did. So eventually, I asked him if there was like an opportunity I could do something and whatever, and he let me open for him and Tom Green in Vegas.
Oh, very cool.
So
nice.
I went out to Vegas. Yeah, it was cool. It was like my first time was in like 2013.
Okay.
And so I fly out to Vegas, and I think like, wow, this is so cool. I'm going to get to spend time around Steve-O and Tom Green and do stand up. And then I get out there and like, they're in Vegas, so like everybody they hang out with is famous too. And I'm not trying to name drop, but like Chris Angel's around us and Carrot Top and all these people and stuff. And
Mind Free Chris Angel?
Yeah,
nice.
Chris Angel. Yeah, I've met him a couple times. Yeah, he's a super cool guy and he's super nice. And he had even come later. So that would be like a little residency thing, like you asked about earlier. And but it's their residence; it's not mine. I'm just like on the show. And so later I get to know all these people out there, and eventually through different connections and stuff, mostly with Tom Green. Then later, I meet Preston Lacey from Jackass, and then Preston needs somebody to be like his road manager to like book his stand up and everything. Mm-hmm. So I start booking. I'm like, I'll book me, to host, feature, whatever, and then I'll do all the booking side of it, and I'll be on the show, and then I can sell Preston and make some money off that, plus off the show, and then he can make money, and we can do these tours. And we got along well, and we ended up we did a couple runs, and then finally, like one of the last ones was like we had gone out for 40 shows in a row, like all over the country and stuff. And then from that, I really like grabbed up all these contacts of like, this guy's a promoter in El Paso, and then I met this other guy, and he does like this area, and then from then on out, I was able to go out like as much as I want, kind of all over the country and stuff.
Nice. That's like a road comic. That's what you consider, or considered road comic, right? Okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I had done road comedy, but like the problem with doing regular road comedy was like I was always trying to go out as myself, just only myself, and so they'd be like, "Hey, it's $100 in a hotel room to go to Missouri, and you won't make money, and you'll just feature, and you'll play a bar." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll do it, but that's lame." And then later it was like, well, if I sell Preston Lacey, now all of a sudden we're playing a 400-seat venue or like a bigger room. Now I've got a 5-star hotel room with it. Now I've got all this other, and I'm actually getting some decent money. And, we can take the travel out of the tour if we book enough dates. And like, now it makes more sense. And then, but some of that can kind of suck too. Eventually I kind of found that I was like, well, I'm not really getting like known either, which obviously doesn't happen because nobody knows me in the end, right? But I just mean like I started to see like, wow, I'm just really in their shadow all the time. Like it's just their fans, that want to see them, whether it's Preston or Steve-O or Van Dam, or I did stuff with the guys from with Eric Stolhansky from Broken Lizard. I did a bunch of stuff with. I went into Canada.
Whitest Kids You Know?
What's that?
Whitest Kids You Know?
Yeah. Timmy Williams, we did stuff with and stuff. So he was cool too. And Timmy's a super cool guy. He lived in like Minneapolis, I think, at the time. So I tried to find guys that were Midwest. Too. Like Preston lived in Missouri, in Joplin, Missouri. Oh, okay. So then it was like, in a day we could meet up, and then it was easier and stuff. Van Dam always had to fly in, or I'd fly out wherever. But that was cool. And so I guess long story short, eventually I decided like I'd want to be in Vegas instead, because then I can build my own act or, whatever. And like not like ride coattails so hard, was the thought process there.
Well, it probably is a lot of like grinding your teeth and putting the time in to learn how to do all that. Then you can do your own.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if I did that right or wrong or whatever. That's just kind of the way it happened for me.
Yeah.
And so
it's probably not the end yet. I mean,
I don't think that's a normal path. I think like normally the normal thing is to like go into a city and like break through in that city or that scene. Wherever. Yeah. So like, let's say you become the best comic in Iowa, then like you would get stuff from that maybe. As yourself, and maybe that's the better way to do it. But I was also like, I had this reckless abandon, like hunger to like move ahead and keep doing stuff, which I think was probably not the right way to do things. You know, like you said about like you get into something and you're like, I'm gonna be the best goddamn thrower in the world, and like there's no middle ground at all. Not just like it leaves being a hobby and becomes this like
it's like with speed cubing, like it's ridiculous. At one point, and that window has passed now for sure. But there was a period of time where like, and I probably could have if I worked a little harder, but like there's this very obscure event in cubing called Scube. It's just like this weird puzzle. It doesn't matter. Awesome. But like I actually at one point was like, I think I could get the North American record. Yeah. Or like I could get like one of the top solves in the world. Mm-hmm. And I was like serious about it. I wasn't like being like, oh, that'd be nice someday. I was like, I'm gonna do that. Like I was like grinding for it. Yeah. But that's like how awesome I go into everything. I'm just like I'm either going to like get like super advanced in this and like really do it, or I'm just not gonna. Why would I do it otherwise?
And that's what happened to me with stand up. Was like when the pandemic happened, I was like, well, fuck this. Like I didn't do it at all for like 2 years, which is so weird. But I respect that. I think that's super cool to dive into something and become an expert on it, or think that like I'm gonna try to get to guru level, my 10,000 hours. Because I can do it and whatever. And I think in the end, any sort of like thing like that, it gets to be more like everybody has goals, but I think goals stop at some point, and I think there becomes like there starts to be like lifestyle instead of goals. And like if I base my lifestyle around cubing or whatever, if I base my lifestyle around arcade games and my lifestyle around stand up, I'm gonna get so much like I'll be way past my goals because it's just lifestyle and it's not like there's no finish line. It just keeps going, and then one day I'll get to fucking Coralville where I've wanted to be all along, around the shops and stores and do a podcast.
Coralville Mall or something like that. Headline outside, it'll be free water.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's the light at the end of the day.
It's just like it's like the old saying that's like stupid sound, like shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars or whatever.
Exactly.
But it's like it is exactly like that. It's like if you set a goal for like, well, I want to be like I want to be able to like open for cool people at these small clubs, and like that's what I want to be able to do, then you maybe will do that. But it's like if you're like, I want to be a headliner and like travel the country, you'll probably at least you'll get to being like a feature actress. Like you'll get so much further than that other goal
because you aimed higher.
You start thinking, I want cool people open for me.
Which can happen, dude. That's I would tell you.
I mean, that's the dream, but
that dream is very accomplishable for anybody, because one thing that can happen a lot is if you go to a big city. That doesn't happen so much here. There's not like drop-ins.
Right.
If I told you the story, I did a drop-in, a drop-in happened to me. I'm at Zany's and I'm trying to audition in Chicago. They have like Monday nights, like audition night, right? Or showcase night or whatever they want to call it. I think it was called Rising Stars, some stupid shit. But they're like, hey, Hannibal Buress is here and he's going to go up and do some time. And I was like, oh, that's great. I love Hannibal Buress. And they're like, well, he's going to go up in front of you. So you still do your 6 minutes clean, but Hannibal Buress is going to go up and do some time. And so I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And so Hannibal Buress goes up and he does 45 minutes and fucking kills. And he's swearing his head off and doing everything he does. And he's awesome. But I go up, he's like signing autographs. People hate me. I bomb, right? Fast forward like 3 months, it happens again. I'm at Zany's. I'm like, I had to wait to get on another one, And then so I'm like, that went bad. I'd like to show again. And then they're like, yeah, that's fine. And I come back and they're like, hey, Hannibal Buress is here. He's going to go up and do some time, right? I was like, are you fucking serious? And he does the same thing. 45 minutes, kills, whatever. He comes off stage. He sees me. He goes, didn't I do that to you before? That's fucked up, man. You should quit comedy. And I was like, what the fuck? And he ended up hanging out for a bit. He was a nice guy, but I just it was, if you want famous people to open for you, that can totally happen. That's within reach.
Oh, that's Zach's. that's going to be Zach's goal.
It's just
you don't want to open for cool people. You want
cool people to open for me so that I can eat shit. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I don't know. I think like me now, maybe I could handle it better or something. But at the time, I was so green too. Again, I'm like pushing almost too hard. So I'm like a 3-year comic. Like instead of just being like, I could get on a showcase in Zany's or in Chicago, I'm like, I'm gonna get on the Zany showcase, the best comedy club there, and I'm gonna whatever, and I'm totally not ready for it and stuff. So
it's hard to take. It's hard not to take stuff personally, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning. I mean, you feel like everybody's like shitting on you. For me, at least, it's still my first year. I think like, oh, everybody's, and it's like, oh wait, nobody's trying to do anything to me. They're
sometimes maybe they are. Some people are sick in the head with this shit. I think in general, like it is hard though to step out of your own skin and look at your own act or look at where you're at and say like, where I've found with it. I'm not trying to give advice, but all this stuff takes time. You know, like. Being a great arcade player or cuber or anything takes time, you know, and so does you just can't rush it. So it's frustrating because we want to. That's what I'm trying to say. Is no, you're good. You needed a pillow or some shit. There you go. Whatever. Get comfy.
I have no idea what you were asking
your place, dude.
I know. I usually like 5 pillows. Yeah. So, no, sorry. Yeah.
No, but
I'll take any advice, dude. This is fun.
I don't think it's that. It's just I think it's like it takes time, and we always want to press fast forward on stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I've had it with relationships and jobs and other things too, where I want to press fast forward, and you just can't. Things take time.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm like the polar opposite now. I think I wanted stuff so much before, where I'm like, it's got to happen tomorrow. But now I'm like taking a step back, and it kind of sucks when you're taking a step back with everything. Because it's like. You know, I know I'll start dating again someone, you know, sometime or whatever, but it's like hard to tell you're like your uncle or something like that. Where he's just like, so you date anybody? No, I'm trying to take time for myself. He's like, all right, cool. Like, Matt's gay. It's like
the older you get, the worse that is of like, you're like, instead of like people are like stuff is happening, right? You're like, actually I'm hitting the brakes a little bit.
They're
like, but you didn't go anywhere. Why are you hitting the brakes?
I always think it's funny when I talk to people and they're like, I'll say like the Vegas stuff, and then they'll be like, "Why'd you leave? What happened to you?" And I'm like, "The world pandemic. Like, did you not? Were you not around for that?" And whatever. And they're like, "You didn't keep doing it." I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't on Zoom like a weirdo. Like, I don't know. Like, and again, if
where are they now?
Yeah, I don't know, man. And
no, I'm just kidding.
It's like I see each their own. There's sometimes there's like people have like a big following and stuff, and they'll be like a YouTuber or some shit, and they're just like ranting in their car, and I'm like, if that's what comedy is, I'm bad at it. Like I don't know what that is. But.
I always wanted to see one of those people. Yeah, just like ranting in their car, like filming themselves.
And
like
actually walk by them while they're doing it.
Stop,
like press your head up to the glass. Whether
I've been talking for like 25 minutes live on Facebook.
I don't know.
What the hell is this dude doing? Yeah,
I think the thing when I was younger in comedy was like the old headliners would tell you like never put stuff online. Because you'll release all your jokes, and then they'll know all your jokes and stuff. Well, now everybody puts everything online, and that's the way to do it. And I'm like, wow, I could have been doing that all along, and maybe that would have. I don't know. You know?
Yeah. What kind of like this podcast is a lot about like growing and stuff like that, learning and shit. So if you're like to redo it, what would you tell yourself? Like any portion of it, like maybe just going out to Vegas or something like that.
Yeah, one of the things I would do is just try and have more fun and not take it so seriously. Okay. You know, like, and also like just enjoy shows and other people's acts and stuff like that, rather than like always trying to get ahead and like, you know, worrying so much about like pushing to different levels and different places and stuff. Some of that can benefit. Also, like, to go back to the Zanies thing really quick, eventually I move out to Vegas, and the lady that had booked Zanies moves to Vegas, just like oddly. She's like gets married out there to a guy, and they move out there, and then she starts booking the MGM Grand. And then so I start playing MGM Grand because I had gotten in at Zanies, and then later I'm in at like one of the best clubs in Vegas because of the time I'd put in Chicago. So I don't want to sound like devil's advocate against myself. Sometimes you put in time and you don't see the grander plan of where that's going, and it'll pay off later, or like
the seeds are planned.
Yeah, the seed is planted. I don't even know if it pay off is the right word or whatever. But
no, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
sometimes stuff like that happens, but
some insignificant thing you think will never mount to anything. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, cool, opportunities arise from it. Yeah.
But in the world of stand-up, at least, I always felt like everything was like everything becomes such a wash where like you do a show. We were kind of talking about this earlier. You'll do a show and then you're like, wow, that was crazy. And it's like, well, that's done. What's next? And then so like, but I got so fixated on like these shows and like whatever that it was like, you know, and fixated on trying to get a following too, which was like, I actually enjoy in a lot of ways not having a following. I don't know, that sounds like loser mentality, but like I can, like you said, I can do stand up, but I can also like go to stuff without being bothered or like post online without being bothered and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of my
seems like you really riff off the crowd or like,
yeah,
I don't know if that's, so it's like every time it's a different crowd, every like Poke Gym is a different crowd of like, you got to like really adhere to everything. And I've always like seen you do well there.
Thank you.
So,
I like to do that. I don't like, so like the thing with that was that I had a guy that like kind of helped me that was kind of like I called him my coach or whatever, but he was just a comedy friend that passed away, but he was really big on the crowd work. Okay. And then so that kind of rubbed off on me. But then the other thing that happened was eventually when I start doing like touring and stuff, I get kind of addicted to it. I want to stay out all the time. I'm doing like, I'm not even exaggerating, like 300 shows a year. Yeah, you know, so I'm out on the road like all the time. Yeah. But then I'm just saying the same shit every night. So then I start to get kind of like depressed and crazy where I'm like, and then I say this, and then I drive there, and I say that again, and I do it. And then so eventually I pushed myself that I was like, I'm going to start playing with the audience because then it's different for me every night too. Yeah, and then that's like, then I can have like creative play in it. Mm-hmm. And I still, if you've seen me, I still hit major points that I always hit every night. Yeah. But I'm able to play for 10 minutes of the 30 or whatever with them. And
because you're building a buffer zone that's personal to the crowd and they kind of get into it. Yeah. It's fun to watch.
Thank you.
I remember you did the one, they were talking about with General Mills in Cedar Rapids, and you brought that in with a kid that worked in like some business. I remember it was cool how you.
Yeah, and we try and tie it all together in an improv.
Because you get like a blue collar worker, you get a white collar worker, you get them all laughing and stuff. You get them all on the same page.
Get everybody in there. And I think that's fun. It includes everybody. I don't ever like to like, sometimes I maybe push my own limit where I don't want it to become like a roast either. I want it to just be like playful, which is sometimes a fine line to walk where you're going back and forth. But
Zach roasted somebody last week.
Did you?
Personal.
Oh, you're talking about is it
maybe he comes Joe? Do you remember Joe from Yacht Club? Maybe 10 years ago?
Is this guy with like
Iowa City guy,
curly kind of hair? He's like hunched over with glasses, and he writes. He like composes music. I think he brings his shit around with him. Yeah, there was like nobody fucking there at the mic, and then like I just started like roasting like the other comics that were there. And then like I don't know, I think you said to like roast him because he came in, he was like the only audience member, and he just comes all the time and he just like laughs and stuff or whatever. And so I don't know, I started coming, I was like, the first thing I could think of is that he looked like he was like from a forest. And then like,
see, I don't think that's that bad. That's funny.
I looked at Matt, and Matt's like doing this, like now it's fucking stuff. Like
this guy just walks in.
It's too much, like, and it's this is the only guy here.
I think that's hilarious. I like from a forest.
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah,
and I think it fit him too well.
Sometimes it can be too true. Yeah. I've heard that you just want to help them see themselves a little bit, not like you don't want to like take them out back and kick their ass. You just want to be like, like this is kind of the vibe you give off, right? And then, like,
right.
As long as it's somewhat true and
good will stick with you too. I remember like 15 years ago, I was looking up and I had like my friend was sitting behind me. He's like, "You looks like you have a pack of hot dogs in the back of your head." Like when I looked up like that,
like the wrinkles in the back. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I'll show you. But it's so funny because every time I look up now, I think about that. I'm just like, God, everybody sees hot dogs now. Yeah, it's funny.
When I toured, I would get messages the next day, and it would be like I would get one. I got one day was like, "Hey, it's Jeffrey Epstein," because like the guy must have looked like Epstein, and I called him Epstein or something. Right. So like they would message me on Facebook, and they'd be like, "It's Hot Dog Neck from Coralville," and I'm like, "Oh, Hot Dog Neck, what up, dude?" And stuff. My trick with that was I like to like maybe roast is the wrong word, but like nicknames for people in the crowd. And I like that because I'm really bad at actual names. Like somebody will be like, "My name's Mark," and then later I'll be like, "Right, Matt?" And then the guy's like, "I said my name was Mark," and I'm like, "God damn it!" I'm like thinking of my next joke, and I'm not paying attention too well. But if it's like a nickname, if I'm like Hot Dog Guy, then like I can remember Hot Dog Guy when I go back to him. So that became my little trick, and I think it's funnier than just saying the guy's name.
Right.
The name again, like you said, sometimes it can get too personal.
Yeah.
Now you're like, I say your name and I'm like, hey Matt, you fucking hot dog. You know, like now it's like, whoa, dude, whoa,
You
you're
smell
like
bad and
crazy
nobody
up
thinks
there.
you're funny.
Yeah, you're like
fuck.
crazy up there, you know. But if I just say hot dog, then like everyone's like, hot dog, and then they kind of leave, and it's just kind of a wash, and then nobody like it's not so personal.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
for sure.
It's like I was listening earlier. I was bored. I was listening to like an old podcast episode I've heard before. It was Louis C.K. on Joe Rogan from like a year ago, and I was like, I remember there's some interesting stuff in this. So I was listening to it, and there's this part that Louis was talking about where he was like saying how like he'll work on like these really fucking dark jokes, and like and then finally like it's killing every time. And then sometimes he'll go to a place and he'll forget that it was ever fucked up and wasn't working. And so he'll come in with the attitude of like, this is some fucking hot shit. And then people are like, what the fuck, dude? And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot that like this was a like, I feel like comics sometimes like, we're used to like talk about weird shit sometimes. And so we like assume when we're talking to people in the crowd that like, oh yeah, this is normal. And they're like, that's not normal.
He's like blocking a door, jacking off. And he's like, I forgot this isn't bad. You know, like, and Joe Rogan's like, well, if you're going to block the door, we should podcast about this. Yeah, that's funny. That's
Have you ever had crowd work go wrong?
Yes, plenty of times, right? But so here's my trick with that. So, all right, so I'm touring and and I want to do the crowd work, right? But of course, like everything, like you're like, I want to break the record, but like I'm not good at it yet. Like like most people, it's kind of an unnatural thing, to like drop your act and go into them, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of like what I would call rigged crowd work. Where like, have you seen people do this?
Yeah,
where, like,
plants or something.
I try. Well, like there's plants. Yeah, magicians kind of do that, right?
Okay.
I don't know if comedians really do that.
Magicians is shitty.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, I think they.
Damn it.
I think they do.
I always hate
don't
getting
know.
tricked. I always hate when I find out I get tricked.
I feel like it's like the assistant sometimes or something like that.
Which makes 100% sense. Yeah,
I don't do any magic, but like I'll have to ask Chris Angel next time. But like I think like when you. Sometimes you hear somebody do like a setup and they can't really walk out of it or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't like to do that. I like to literally hand the floor over completely, where I'll be like, and what do you do? And then completely give them the floor.
Yeah.
You know, not be like, kind of like, sometimes you'll hear crowd work, they'll kind of trample over them. They're like, and this guy works at the hot dog stand. And now they're just like making up this whole thing. I'd rather hear your actual response and let you go completely fully take over for like 2 seconds. Now I have to
let it get weird for a second.
Right? Let it get weird, and I have to take the room back. So how I learned how to do that was I had my professional shows, right? And then I was like, okay, so I'm hosting or featuring on this show at like whatever comedy club or bar or whatever. That's fine. I'll do my act there. But anytime I go to an open mic, and I did this for at least a year, every single time I'm not going to do any material. I'm only going to go up and talk to them. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to tell a joke necessarily because I don't care because it's an open mic. So like, I'm just going to go up and, where are you from? What do you do? How did you two meet? And where are you from? What do you do? How do you two meet? And force myself to improv with them.
Yeah.
And I play a lot of improv games up there without. Sometimes you see like a Second City or something where they're doing like improv. No, like I need a place of business and it's like a Mad Lib, really. Like I do a lot of that, but like I don't set it up like. Like I need a suggestion from the audience, and it's like an ensemble. Like I just force it out of them, where I'll be like, "And how long have you? Where did you two meet?" and stuff. So
because you're put on the spot, you're going to answer. You're probably going to answer in a panicked way, where it's like, this is going to be something fun out of this.
Exactly.
This is going to be lighthearted. This is going to be fun. Yeah.
I also had a point where I hated being heckled. I felt like my whole act I was waiting for the heckle, and for whatever reason I got heckled a lot, and so I felt like I was always like, oh, when are they going to do? And I have to like write a response. Like if somebody heckles on this, I'll say this, and it's like that's so disgenuine and silly. So I was like, why don't I just get into them first? And just if there is one, I'll just find them right away and then just play with them. And I'll create creative play instead of this like, you ever see these videos that are like comedian destroys heckler? I don't like that. It's like, what's that vibe like that you created? You know, like
there's one comic in LA that's all they do is just make fun of people. I don't like it.
It's
kind of like, man, this dude just
it's like kind of crazy, and so it's like sometimes I like if it has to go. I've had a couple where it goes there and it's whatever, that's what it is. But I always feel like dirty about that afterwards. I like it to be like we all had fun, and that's that's what I'm after.
I wonder what's always going through the hecklers' minds. It's like, is it their first show, like, ever going to, or we were talking about earlier, where it's like,
Yeah.
where they just want people they want to steal the show from somebody, kind of, or.
I think some of it is alcohol, right?
True, yeah.
I think some of it can be, drugs or depression or other stuff. I think really though what it is like they think they're helping or like making the show better.
Oh yeah.
Or like there's like a desire like to get involved, like a magician, like, oh, pick me. And
Yeah.
Or there's like also like maybe they don't go to a lot of comedy shows, so they literally think like you're speaking to them, and you're like, I'm not really talking to you. Like that's not what I'm doing. I'm saying rehearse shit, So they just think you're flowing and they want to jump in and stuff. So
yeah,
I haven't seen necessarily like a ton of this in comedy, but I bet it probably happens too, because I've seen it in other stuff where like there's definitely like some insecure dudes too, where like if their girl is with them, and then you are like, you can see that like you're connecting and you're like, you're doing this thing with their girl that like she's enjoying it, and it gets this weird place for them because they're insecure, so then they feel like they have to like insert themselves in the situation, be like, no, but I'm really the real shit because blah blah blah. And then
I've had that.
So if they're like funnier than the comedian, then it's like, oh, see, I still win. Like
I've had that happen so much where it was like, when I was younger too. Now I'm like old and fat and married, and nobody's like threatened by me and stuff like that. They're just like, this guy's crazy, whatever.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I play to the women mindset a lot, or at least try to, because I think women make the decision to come to the show most times, like a professional show. Right. Not open mics, a lot of dudes hanging out.
The guy would take his friends to the show.
Yeah, maybe. And sometimes you'll see that, but a lot of times the woman is the one like, I think we should go to this thing, and the guy's like, okay. And so he buys the ticket or something, but it's her. She's the one that made the plans.
Right.
So it's her idea. So now they're out at this thing that was like her idea, and
he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily. He's not like totally invested in it. Yeah. And then like you said, now she's like vibing, and he's like, fuck this guy, like. And then too, like, thinks he can be like, well, you suck or something. And you're like, there's certain tricks with that though. So like one of them is, and I hope I'm not like mansplaining that, but like one is like to make the heckler repeat themselves.
Yeah.
You heard this, right? Yeah.
No, I haven't, but
everybody sounds like an idiot when they repeat themselves.
Yeah. So what was that?
And the other thing is sometimes the heckler thing is a complete fight to. All right, number one rule in comedy is what? Never get mad, no matter what. No matter what happens, never get mad.
I don't know.
You never get mad, right? So you don't get mad. So who loses? The first person to get mad. Like if the heckler gets angry, then he loses. So like normally, like if you're up there. I always think the funniest comics are like, you're like, wow, this guy doesn't give a fuck, or this girl does not give a fuck about anything. Like they appear, because we care so much all the time. We care about our relationships, and we were talking about dogs. We care about our dogs, or our arcade, cubing championship and our stuff. And so like all of our little things. And then so when you see somebody that doesn't care about anything, you're like, this is awesome. So you don't care about anything, right? And the guy's heckling you, or lady's heckling you or something, and they say something to you, and they're like, I think you suck. And you're like, I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
And then they're like, I said I think you suck. And you're like, yeah, just a little bit louder. When you talk, it's like really weird. Can you say it one more time? Yeah, take the cock out of your mouth and say it again, will you? I said you suck. And you're like, I got you. Like, I'm already in your fucking head. Like,
my bad, dude. All right.
Also, when you make them repeat themselves, it gives you a second to come up with something.
That happened to me one time, because I'm horrible at crowd work. I've tried to make myself do it sometimes, and it feels terrible, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But there was one time where, like, because sometimes somebody will say something, and like they're not really heckling, but like it'll be weird if you just don't do anything with them. So I kind of had to. Yeah. And so he like, I don't remember, he was saying something about like, oh, for marketing, or I don't remember what it was. And I was like, and I genuinely kind of almost didn't hear him. I heard part of it. I was like, what was that? And then, he repeated himself, and he stopped making much sense. And the whole time I'm just racking my brain, like, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
And I realized, like, I was confused. Like, I didn't know what the fuck he's saying. So I was just like, where is this going, man? And then he was like, it can go anywhere you want to. And then, so I was just like, I don't think I want to go anywhere with you. And then that got the laugh.
Killer. Yeah.
But it took that beat of him talking to give myself time to like
and
think of something.
Make him go again. So and now.
And if he hadn't talked as much either, me saying anything, it wouldn't have worked. Like letting him just ramble.
Yeah.
Then people get it. They're like,
because he's not prepared and whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I think sometimes genuinely, especially the bigger the crowd doesn't always hear them.
Yeah.
Like you can hear them. He's like marketing, and you're like, what marketing? But they didn't hear it. So then you start like going at this guy, and they're like, whoa, what happened? Wait, I was like looking at my phone. What happened here?
I just got him pissed.
Stop, pause, make him repeat himself, make him sound like an angry, crazy idiot. If anything, we sound stupid the second time we see it. Maybe the marketing thing was a burn. He's like, like, that's your marketing. And then you're like, say that again. And he goes, I said, like, that's your marketing? And you're like, yeah, you sound like an idiot.
It's like 3 times as big as
business advice from you fucking hot dog neck, you fucking crazy mother. Yeah, and then now you can go off on this guy, right? Yeah. And then at least playfully, and again, keeping it like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, like my marketing of what? Of the open mic, Like,
that always, I've noticed, like, the best sets I have are always, and it kind of is unfortunate, is always when I'm a little anxious. I'm like, I don't feel right. Mm-hmm. And then, like, people can tell, like, there's something weird energy about me, but then I kind of just confess stuff and say that I don't care. And the less I care and the more, like, fucked up sounding and anxious I sound, like this guy's, like, about to have a breakdown, people, like, they get into that. They kind of like that.
I think what you're doing, and I would agree with that, is you're being honest in the moment.
Yeah.
Which so much of stand-up is. Like you were saying earlier, Matt, when we were talking before Zach showed up, that sometimes you have those sets and then we just start to kind of, you realize, like, wow, I'm just, like, kind of talking. Like, I'm not. But then we switch back to being honest in the moment. Sometimes, like, if everyone's on their phones, I'm like, wow, what the fuck was a shooting just happened or something like that? Like, why is everybody looking at just acknowledge the moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes even acknowledging the moment is funny. That one wasn't just now, but that was kind of fucked up. But you know what I mean? Like, you acknowledge the moment and that makes it funny. Whereas if too much stuff, like you said, if you don't acknowledge it, that's crazy too. Because we're not on Netflix. You're live, and you're in front of people, and you're gonna deal with bar stuff, TV's on, drunk people, hear the drinks clanking and stuff like that.
Skee ball. Oh my god,
you're never gonna have a perfect environment. Stuff's gonna go wrong. But the more we can start honing some of that stuff in and playing into it, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And for every rule, sorry to cut you, but for every rule, there's an exception too. I mean, if you're Mitch Hedberg, that's not totally a thing at all. You're just throwing killer jokes. So that's just kind of what eventually worked for me enough to,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the skee ball thing happened like a while ago when I was hosting a mic, and it was just like, at first it sucked, but then it actually turned into a bit that I used throughout the night because, like, they were doing skee ball. I made some comment about, like, I should have fucking said something, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, some other people, like, did another game of skee ball. And then, like, I don't remember, I made some sort of joke about how, like, we're just up here, like, pouring our hearts out and, like, we care about this. So, and then there's people just, like, doing skee ball, and now we just go home, we'll kill ourselves or whatever. I made some suicide joke. And then, like, after I did that, the next person went up and, like, during their set, someone else did skee ball. And so it just kept doing this recurring thing, and I was able to play off of, like, how blatantly disrespectful it was that, like, I basically said, we're going to go home and kill ourselves, and they were like, cool. Like,
play it again. Put another quarter in. That's funny, dude. I like that. That's a tough room. You're talking about joystick. And that has always been a tough room.
Well, it's just so long and narrow, and it's like, people don't sit close, and it's like... always having side conversations and stuff.
It's kind of like a scary house on the outside too. Like, even the person that would wander into it in the first place is like kind of different, there's all those, like, nice clean bars down there, like you were mentioning, like DC's earlier or something like that.
Pints and DC.
Pints, it's like really nice, and like bars. Everything's like it's like countertops and stuff like that, and then you're like, or you guys could go to this crack house and see a $3 comedy show.
I ran into my ex-wife's, like, gay best friend there one day.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'm here for the comedy show. He's like, there's no comedy show here, Matt. I'm like, there was.
There was, yeah.
It was like 20 minutes ago.
Or you're like, or sadly there is. Like,
I just imagine him, like, telling her, like, Matt's hanging out at the studio. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I've done so much stand-up there in the past, and it was like, before it was Joystick, when it was Yacht Club. And I did a ton of stand-up there, and I feel like that room, though, really cut my teeth in that, like, there used to be a guy, I don't know if he ever still goes down there, because I haven't gone there in years, but there's a dude that used to go down there named Jason, and Jason was, like, I don't know how to describe this guy. He was like, I think he was kind of like mentally handicapped. Somebody had told me that maybe he had been in an accident of some kind.
Oh, sure, okay.
But he talked like this.
Yeah.
He had a voice like this, and he would come and he would come down there and like he was crazy, dude, and he like was just always blacked out drunk. And I think he was like a cook somewhere. Does this guy hang out there? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know if Jason. There's a guy. There's a guy that's a cook that's always drunk named John, but I think it's someone else.
That might be a trend. Yeah, in general, I feel like I'm not being very descriptive here. It was Jason would come down and he would sit in the back and he would heckle and he would say the craziest shit that like even on my best day I couldn't follow. Like one of his catchphrases was he was like, "I'm gonna bust a nut." You'd be like bombing, you know. You're like, "You guys gonna play skee ball?" And then you'd hear, "I'm gonna bust a nut." And you're, "Fuck, man, what do I do with that?" Right?
Yeah.
I fought against this guy for years. I couldn't stand him, and eventually, like, I had asked the venue. I was like, "Just 86 this guy. Just throw him out. Like, I'll pay his tab, whatever." Yeah. I just hate, and they wouldn't do it. And it was the best blessing that they wouldn't do it because eventually I was like, "I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna make him part of the show." So we sat him in the back and we used like the God mic and we had him do the intro.
And he was
okay. Welcome to the Yacht Club. It's Tom Garland, you motherfucker. And he would like do this. It was hilarious. We put a spotlight on him. Yeah. We got him super involved in the show.
Yeah.
And then when you were killing, he would say, "You're a funny guy." And he would say it like, and so like sometimes I'd be fucking doing stand up and then I'd hear, "You're a funny guy." And I was like, God, I'm fucking murdering right now.
Yeah.
Because Jason likes me. And then like, but making him part of the show. And so again, to go back to the heckling, like the more you can get them involved, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of share the floor with them as opposed to them trying to take it from you.
Yeah. I've also heard these are just like I don't know, take it or leave it. But like I've also heard like 2 compliments and then a burn.
Okay.
You know, like just like because we all know things are funny in threes, right?
Yeah.
It's not just funny to say one thing; it's funny to say 2 things that are normal and one that's obscure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll see me with the crowd. If the guy's like kind of, so if I'm just doing crowd work, I can just keep it creative play. But if now it's the boyfriend or husband, he's kind of starting to heckle me. He's getting offended and whatever. And I'd be like, "Dude, you seem like a cool guy. I don't know. Like, you seem great. Like, you seem successful. It seems like you have a sexual connection with me." You know, and then the last one, now I'm fucking with him. And you'll be like, "Well, I don't have a sexual connection with you." And then you go back to complimenting him. Because what happens is he gets nodding and agreeing, like, I am cool. I am whatever. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, "It feels like you want to fuck me." And he's like nodding, like, "I don't want to fuck you." Wait, no, what did you say? And then they can't keep up with that. You know? So, yeah, that's a trick. I mean, I don't know. Shit. Sometimes if it's just an open mic, I'll just get the fuck off stage and leave him for the next guy.
Yeah.
just be like, I'm like, okay, well, have fun with this dude. He's crazy.
Get them to
the only time you have to sit there and deal with it is if you're like featuring or headlining when you're like, wow, I'm getting paid and I can't get off right now. You're insane.
Yeah,
you know?
this dude's just fucking heckling me.
Yeah.
This dude won't let me go. Yeah. What were the shows out in Vegas like compared to like? To me, like a comedy show in Vegas would be people would be like heckling all the time, like belligerent or like work. Is that like work with you? Where
Sometimes
you can get them
not necessarily. Sometimes what happens is like you think that they'd be belligerent because they're drinking all day and stuff that, and like smoking legal weed and shit. Yeah. But like sometimes what would happen is like they get into they like leave the casino and the casino's like pumping full of oxygen and it's like bing 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 bing, and then they come in and all of a sudden it's like dark and like cool in there, like the air conditioning's on and shit, and they've been out in the sun drinking all day and somebody's like, "Hello, welcome to the comedy club," and they go to sleep.
Oh yeah,
they do the exact opposite. You think they'd be all rowdy, but they're like pass the fuck out, like because they're you know, especially if the guy starts the show real low energy and stuff. But Vegas is great because the people, it's like Disney World or something where the people just keep coming through the turnstiles, and so you can do. There's people out there that've been doing the same act every night for 20 years. You never have to change your shit up. It can be real bad for that too, because then like if you all of a sudden you're not writing much, right? Because you're just like, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Like, and there's always people at every show. Like there's even bad open mics and they have people at them because there's just so much to do and so many people and they all want entertainment. There's different price scales the one that I found was hard was like the nicer the club I played or the bigger the show I played, the higher the ticket price. So like a low show there is obviously like there's like free showcases and stuff, but like like a real strip show, a low end show would be like $20 to $40 a ticket.
Okay.
A high end show can be up to 125 and up.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
If you pay, like sometimes what I did at Brad Garrett's, what I would host, but I would host when Brad wasn't there. So they'd be like, welcome to the Brad Garrett Comedy Club. By the way, Brad's not here. Welcome your host, Tom Garland. And you just paid $125 and you're like, I've never fucking heard of this guy. Fuck this guy. And so you don't get that verbal, but there's a lot of like arms crossed, like this better be good, you know? And there's an expectation too, because there's Cirque out there and, you know, all these big, you're in a big casino made out of gold, you know, and then they're like, all of a sudden they're like, this better be fucking good.
Yeah.
You
like
know?
you like air fryers?
Yeah. So like a lot of times I think you come out, I think this is important on every show, but I think it's really important there. First 30 seconds, you got to pop.
Yeah.
Like you got to establish like, I'm funny. Believe that I'm funny. Okay. I got the first pop. Cool. Now I can chill out and play my shit. Now I can like kind of loosen up. Now I can you'll see a lot of times I don't go straight into the crowd.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell one or two jokes and then go in the audience. Cause then it's like, I've established I'm funny. That's been a thing, or I've established character at the very least, and then I'm going in. I'm not just like, hey, what's your name? They're like, I don't fuck you. You do it, tell a joke, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's this interesting thing that happens with like art in general, and comedy is no exception, where it's like, you see this a lot in fiction, where like, if somebody's like not a known author, the books they write at the beginning have to be different because nobody knows who you are. So they need to get pulled in right away and develop a feeling of like, oh, this person knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a known author, especially if it's like might be the third book in a series of 7 or 8 books,
right? They're
into it already. So you can kind of take your time and set up all this stuff, and they'll keep reading because they trust you already.
Yeah.
But if they don't know you, you've got to do it differently. I think comedy's like that too. It's like if they don't trust you already and know you're funny, you like I said, you have to pop right away.
Yeah, you'll see the known. Obviously, that only applies to like unknowns. Like, you'll see the known headliners go up, and they already love them in the first 2 seconds because they're there to see them.
Yeah,
you know that makes sense. It's not so much. You know, when I worked with Tom Green, it's not like, you know, Tom Green at a comedy club usually. It's more like Tom Green in concert, and you're going to see him because you like him, not like just because he happened to be the one and you were having dinner at the Funny Bone. Like, it's kind of the bass backwards way around.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it's a good way to think about stuff too for your first like 30 seconds. Because I know I come on stage sometimes, I just look like I'm super pissed. Like it's hard to, but then I'm like, oh, I didn't know my last name meant gay till I was like 14. They're, oh, that's funny.
I haven't seen you do that where you look pissed, but I have seen, and this isn't like on you, but I have seen comics get up, especially at open mics, and they fuck around for the first like 10 seconds at least, where they're just like, they're just like, hey, how are you guys? Yeah, give it up for the other comics.
Oh,
like,
God. Yeah.
Oh, is everybody drinking? And you're like, get into it.
Yeah.
Hurry up. Like they're already judging you. You know?
I think those people are the ones that watch the videos where like you need 3 claps right away, where it's like, give it up for the host. Person. Then it's like, then give it up for your drinking guys. It's like, all right, 3.
Yeah.
They love me now. It's like, and they get into weird shit. And you're like, kind of lose them right away. Yeah.
I've always thought like if you can come out and do one thing that establishes like this is kind of what I'm going to talk about, or like I'm kind of going to be like this. You said, just like the book, like this is kind of the vibe I'm going to get off. I do know what I'm doing, and then they're like, oh, good, he knows what he's doing, and then you're like, cool, now we can all relax.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
And it gives you a chance too to kind of feel them out and be like, oh, okay, they're really tired, or oh, okay, they're real drunk, or like, you know.
Yeah.
So
kind of gauge how you're gonna go.
Yeah, how you're gonna go.
Because if they're full of energy and stuff like that, maybe I'll do more crowd work or something, or maybe I'll back
off a little bit and not be as wild. You know, maybe they're already wound up. Maybe I'll just coast or whatever, and Sometimes I think the best headliners, I'm not this way necessarily, but I think the best headliners and people are the ones that can get a laugh when they get on stage. They're not even saying anything yet.
Yeah.
And people are already like fucking laughing. Like they're barely starting to speak. And it's like, I used to have a dude I did shows with in Vegas, Hubert Rossi, and Hubert would get up and Hubert would come out, and he is an acrobat, so he would bounce on one hand. And he'd bounce on one hand and come out and do the splits. Yeah. And people are like, whoa. You know, it's like, he hasn't even said anything yet. And you're like, I can't follow that shit, dude. I'm supposed to go out and be like, give it up for, the host, like what? It's like, he just fucking did the splits on one. He was on one hand. Like, so that's the difference I always think between, maybe not, that's an extreme version of it, but that's sometimes the difference between like, oh, you're funny, and like, well, he's killing, like he's crushing out there. Yeah, so
then you have to go on after him, and you're just like,
and like you said, then Hannibal Buress rips 45, and I trip over the mic, and hang myself with it.
It's not part of the.
They're throwing skee balls, and it's hitting me in the nuts while I'm swinging back.
I love that he noticed that was happening to you again. And like, you should just quit comedy.
Which I don't. Sometimes I've told that story, and people are like, "Wow, it's a really mean thing for him to say." And I'm like, "No, again,
it's like actually really empathetic."
I think it's the funniest thing he could have said in the moment. Like that's what we were saying before. Like if I say, like you said, just acknowledge the uncomfortability. Yeah. Like he was like, "Wow, you should quit stand up." Like that's like the funniest thing ever. Yeah.
Terrible if he looked at you just like, fuck you, and just kept walking.
Yeah, that would have been fucked up. I've been around people that were he was not a dick. No, it was I thought it was funny.
I was just thinking in my head, then the next time you see him again, he does it again. He just he sees your name on the thing. He's like, I'm going to fuck this dude up.
He has no idea who I am. So I should probably quit telling that story too, because
that's funny.
That's funny as hell. Yeah. But dude. Yeah, it was. Like I would just say too, like I didn't like anything that you want to. Now's the time, dude. If you to like experiment with weird shit. Yeah. Because like you're in Iowa City too. Like you can be
real weird.
Yeah, exactly. You can be as weird as you fucking want. Yeah. And Iowa too. Like nobody's gonna like. I don't know too many people that blew up because they, were here when it happened. Like there's people like that have done really awesome things from Iowa, but usually they're in like somewhere else when they do it. So like now's the experimental phase and stuff.
Yeah. Look at what is it, like a rising tide rises all ships or something like that?
I like that. Raises all boats or whatever. Yeah.
So something like that. Just like I don't know, make Iowa like. I don't know. I think Iowa's going to be a big place in the next couple of years, not for comedy, but for like anything. So it's like. So many people are moving here from LA and New York and all that because there's so much room. So it's what's Iowa going to look like in 5-10 years? It could be a hub for comedy. It could be. I don't know, maybe it couldn't be, but I think maybe not in Iowa City.
I think stand-up's back in general. It was kind of like not as much a thing when I first started. Like I think it was starting to fizzle a little bit.
Because you got in 2010, right? You said
2010 was the year I started.
Has there already been like a few different waves of it?
Kind of like I've seen different stuff. Like we were talking about the videos and all that. Like now, originally when I started working the crowd too, like I told you, my coach friend Bruce J was like, you want to work the crowd, that's the X factor, and I was like, I don't see anybody do that. Yeah. Now that's all you see. Like if you turn on now, it's like not that special anymore that I do. Yeah. But I also see people do it in a way where I'm like, I would never do it. Or they post like a clip. They'll be like, I don't know, I'm just talking shit now. But they'll be like, they'll post a clip and it's like them doing crowd work, but the clip is like 14 seconds. And I'm like, show the rest of the 5 minutes. Like, what happened before and after that? And then like show you in the parking lot when the guy smacks you in the fucking.
That's funny. Yeah. That'd be a funny sketch, probably.
The other
like the dude's day. That
the
gets
other
heckled,
4.5 minutes.
He gets fired from his job. Has to go to the show with his wife. He's just pissed. Guy starts heckling him. It's like,
I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Nice. Well, I think we're winding down, right? I can't read that.
Oh, so been going an hour 3 minutes.
All right, sounds good. Is anything else you want to? You got a show
thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know if you'll have this out in time, but I'm doing a show where I'm trying to record a comedy special that's 14 seconds long. Down at the I'm trying to do an hour and see how it turns out. And if it's good, we'll put it up. And that's obviously self-produced. That's nothing special and whatever. But I think it is we're gonna try and make it a special. It's at CSPS, which is a little arts theater in Newbo and Cedar Rapids, and that is on April 26th. So
cool.
At 8:00, you can get tickets at my website, which is tomgarlandstandup.com, and you can watch my documentary on Tubi right now. It's for free on Tubi. It's called Arcade Gamer.
Yeah, very good documentary too. Yeah, I'd recommend it to anybody. Yeah, it was a fun watch. So
thank you.
Well, thanks again, Tom. I appreciate it.
Dude, thank you guys for doing this. This was fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's super fun.
All right, cool.